Welcome tonight, ladies and gentlemen, to the second part of the interview. All for the upcoming game this Sunday of the LRMs versus the meta. Tonight I am joined by, once again, Gothic Vash of the Monitors, Silken.
Hello.
What's your unit again?
Black Knight Mercs.
Black Knight Mercs. Nice name, by the way. And I'm your host, CainenEX.
Real quick, though, because you're Black Knight Mercs, what's your opinion of the Black Knight?
Mech? Well,
Yeah.
you know, I can't talk bad about our totem mech, so... I love it. It has good torso twist speed and range. And now with the structure quirks, it's a beast to take down.
Oh, it's so good. Did you ever try it before they kind of fixed the hitboxes?
I don't think I owned it before they fixed the hitboxes.
Oh, God.
I bought it like a month after.
You were so lucky. I had to suffer through that. It was horrible.
Yeah, it was. I had to ask, though. Have to ask. And sorry for derailing right there, but...
Hey, don't worry. It's all good. It's all part of the fun of it. So, I did have some questions tonight. So, coming from the other side of the table, why do you think that the LRM system is unviable, or what problems come from using the system that makes it just so unpopular amongst some of the community members who speak so vulgarly about it that they won't even want it in their drop at all?
Well, LRMs, people confuse the word, in my opinion, viable with with optimal. It is a viable weapon. It can perform in certain situations. It's not like the machine gun or the flamer where it's completely worthless. It does have certain scenarios that it can perform in. But the reason why competitive players generally, and some top-tier players, they don't like to use LRMs, they won't touch it, they won't speak about it, is because it's nowhere near optimal, and it's all about efficiency in the top tiers. A weapon system that essentially, I mean, it's not able to dish out damage as accurately, as precisely, as quickly as direct fire weapons. A direct fire weapon, I poke out, I shoot you, I pull back. LRM, I gotta sit there and watch it go to you, and then, oh look, you pop behind cover. My whole salvo's a waste. So that's pretty much it. I mean, it's all about being able to put out damage quickly, being able to concentrate it, and taking down mechs as fast as you can. And LRMs are not able to do that. I mean, the amount of time it takes, the amount of damage it takes to put down a mech with LRMs is significantly higher than with direct fire weapons, which is why it's not optimal and just not really worth taking, because you're putting yourself at a disadvantage.
All right, I do understand that. That is a bit... Well, I can understand exactly why, at least from the competitive side, why they're not taken. Is this a problem caused by the fact that they're not fire and forget, and that they require so much face time to utilize that you put yourself at risk from what I've seen in the competitive play getting focused very quickly?
Well, you know, that's part of it, that you have to, you know, sort of... You have to babysit your LRMs. You got to make sure they're going and hitting their target. But it's not just that. It's the fact that it takes them a long time to reach their target, because although their velocity is decent, they go in such a high arc that their distance is significantly greater that they're traveling, as opposed to an AC-10 or a Gauss rifle or a PPC or a laser, which is instantaneous. And then even if it happens to reach the target, if he has ECM, radar depth, or cover, he can pretty much negate your LRMs. If he has 8 AMS, it will reduce the damage you deal, or negate it entirely. And then even if you do hit, the damage is not even concentrated. So like, I fire an LRM 20, you know, that 20 damage is spread out all over the mech, whereas if I hit someone with a Gauss rifle, it's 15 instantly to one spot. It doesn't spread. So the problem is that it takes time to get there. It can be countered as it's getting there, and then when it gets there, it's not as effective as a direct fire weapon, because it either deals it instantly to one spot, or it's a lot easier to control it, whereas LRMs fire and it hits where it wants.
Okay, I got a question. I'm just playing devil's advocate here as an LRM pilot. How come they aren't used as like a support role, say, you have your LRM guy in the back opening the armor up for you direct fire guys to core them out faster.
In high-end organized play and competitive play, they're over quickly. You get your firing line set up, you focus fire a mech, you take them down quickly. LRMs take too long to be able to dish out their damage.
Okay.
You can have some mechs sitting back in the back. I mean, they could be effective in certain situations, but it's the fact that the other team, if they're running purely direct fire, they can put all their firepower to bear instantly. They don't have to wait for it to fly in. It's there, and they're able to focus fire it. If your team has mostly direct fire and some LRMs, then yeah, you can trade with them, but you're at a disadvantage because you're playing the enemy team's game and they have superior equipment. If you rely on your LRMs, then they can just negate it or get within range or whatever. I mean, it's no real competition here.
No, that makes perfect sense. I just had to ask.
That's all right.
Well, no, that certainly does clear up quite a bit, and yeah, from some of the matches that I've seen, yeah, it can be over quite quickly. It kind of reminds me a bit of the musket firing line. It's pretty much if you fire up on your target, you can decimate it pretty quickly. So my next question over here would be, why do you feel that the meta is better for the competitive play, or why does it become better for this competitive play, or why has it emerged to be so?
I'm sorry, you broke up mid-sentence there. Can you state that?
Sure. So I wanted to ask, why do you feel that the meta is better for competitive play, or why has it emerged to become this type of meta? What has influenced it to develop in such a manner?
Well, the meta it's competitive because it comes from the competitive. The competitive players are the players who come up with, all right, these are the builds that work, these are the mechs that it works on, and this is what they're supposed to do and what works for them. So what you see here is, in my opinion, there are two types of meta. There's the primary meta and then there's secondary meta. Primary meta is actively being developed, and it changes. So basically what you have is the top players, and they have basically a list of stuff that works. All right, these mechs in this version of the game, these mechs are good, they have good quirks. All right, these weapons are good weapons. All right, these mechs pair up good together, and here are the combinations we can make. And then you have the secondary meta, which is ranging from the low tier to the good players who aren't really, I'm not going to say they're less creative, it's just that they're trying to catch up with the top players, and they're basically using the standard or easiest builds that comes from the primary meta. So, for example, you have the Blackjack 1X with the 6 medium lasers and 2 medium pulls. That's an easy build to use. It comes from the primary meta. It's there, but there are other variations of it that exist in the primary meta that you don't see in the secondary one, because the secondary one, they're just copying specific builds. They don't really, I want to say, they don't understand the game as well, if I want to be honest, because they're just copying a set build. They're not piecing together different components to make something that works. So, for example, in the Blackjack 1X, you could see one that has, like a standard engine and 1 less medium pulse. You don't see it as often because it's only used in specific situations, like if you're in a 1v1 or something like that. But they do exist in specific roles that are minor. And in secondary meta, you don't really see that. So let's see. There's another part of your question. I think I forgot it.
Basically, I was asking probably why it had emerged. Why has the meta emerged in such a...
The meta emerges because it's from the competitive play. It works. They go and look, okay, in this version of the game, this list of weapons and mechs work. These combinations of them work. These are mechs we run because they're the most effective. That's the meta right there. These builds work for this game as of right now. Then it trickles down because people look, okay, that works, and then we'll follow it. Just like what Envisage said yesterday. the lesser skilled players, or players who are skilled but aren't top tier, they look at the top tier and they try and copy what they're doing, bring themselves up to that level. That's all it is. It's just an established group of weapons and mechs and combinations that are proven to work as of that version of the game.
Okay, I understand that. And I can relate. I look a lot at the metamechs and try and follow what people are trying to do in the competitive play. I talked to a few teams. I've spoken to Colonel Oops from Majestic 12. A bunch of good guys to run with, but I understand from them as well what they kind of do. And I know that different groups have their own ways of running various things, at least from what's in to be considered from the meta. And they'll shift that around depending on what their drop is or what the game mode they're running. So I did have another question. Do you ever run LRMs in pug drops?
It's been a little bit, but yeah, I used to run Mad Dog in LRMs. I had a Warhawk with a couple. Sometimes I like to use them. I know they're not optimal, but they can be fun at times. Yeah,
they can definitely be fun, especially if you kind of do just a fun build. I think I saw yesterday. What was it? The ninth Sword of the Dragon. What's his name? Makoto was running with his team 3 Jenner Oxides using LRM 5s.
Oh, that was ridiculous. They were running that, and we were running a small laser build. It was hilarious.
The trolls came out. Yeah, so that was fun. So, at least they're getting used, but not by they're not being utilized on all levels of play. So, the next question that I have here is, what is different from what the community thinks of LRMs from what Envisage sees of LRMs?
Well, that's a little difficult because Envisage is a little.
Take your time.
He's basically he picked LRMs because he wants to prove a point that the meta is stale and that it can be more dynamic than what it is. But he said himself he likes the weakest argument, and LRMs are definitely one of them. His plan basically of spreading the LRMs out among his team and essentially doing zone coverage and attacking from multiple directions. It is an enticing strategy. I did actually consider using that when I was a new player in this game, but I learned that that's not going to work. It's not optimal. I mean, in some situations it can, but ultimately it's not going to get you victory as guaranteed as other strategies. And every new player, they come into the game and they play the game and they find some weapons that they like, and then eventually they'll come up with some reason as to why that weapon system is good, even if it's not. They'll essentially delude themselves that weapon system works. I did it myself with LRMs. I actually thought at one time for like a couple of days that you could actually use it in a 1v1 situation, and that's completely stupid. So basically what...
I just have to laugh at that, because I have thought about bringing LRMs against you in one of our 1v1s at one point, and it was just like, yeah, that ain't gonna work.
Yeah, I thought it. I was like, alright, I can do it, because I'm like, alright, I'll shoot this guy with my PPCs, and I got target lock, and I'll hop behind this building, and as he's running around, I'll shoot him with the LRMs, and it in theory, it sounds like a good idea, but then when you actually try and put it in practice, it's bad. Luckily for me, though, I did have a wake-up call. On my 4th day of playing the game, I tried out for CSJX with CainenEX, and he kicked my butt pretty bad. I mean, the guy is definitely one of the best players in the game, even if he doesn't show up very often now. But, and I would go and I'd be like, hey, what about this build? And then he'd basically just shut me down and be like, a big list of this is why it sucks, it's fucking shit, yada, yada, yada. And it was, I want to say more, not necessarily brutal, but more, like intense the way he did it. But, it was necessary to shake me out of my fucking delusional state that this system works when in actuality it doesn't work. it can work at some times, but it's not optimal. So the thing with Envisage is he needs to go through that, which I hope this event is actually good enough for that. But knowing him, he might need a second or third kick in the butt.
It's going to be entertaining, that's for sure. And I think, honestly, I feel privileged to kind of be a part of this, because it's going to be a learning experience for me. I'm just starting to kind of scrape the very surface of trying to understand the competitive community and why things are done in a certain manner. So honestly, to see this, at least from me, coming from what I started as, well, I'm still kind of a casual player, I guess. I'm trying to get better, but I'm trying to educate myself more on that. So coming from that side, and coming in to see how or why things are done in such a manner, and just to see it unfold in real time is honestly a great privilege for me. I'm going to be super excited just to see what happens this Sunday.
Well, I find this whole thing very interesting, and I already have my suspicions on what's going to happen, but we'll see what actually happens.
No, I'm just surprised I actually was able to convince this many people to show up, considering most of them, I've only been in TS with them like a couple times, if that. So the fact that they were willing to do it, even with LRMs, most of them signed up to be on the meta team. Obviously, they don't want to be on the LRM side, but they still did it. Some of them are willing to do it. Like, for example, I'm pretty sure you guys have heard of Mechwarrior before, right?
I've been in drops with him.
Yeah, he is
terrible at remembering names, so I've probably run into him.
Well, think angry Italian. But no, he's actually a good guy if you get in TS. But anyway, I was surprised when I contacted him. He's like, "Oh yeah, I've run LRMs a couple times before. I'll be up for it." So it's I don't see why there's this much interest in this event. Honestly, I just put up the thread on the website so that people who are doing it have a reference point for all the information. But right now it has 2,400 views.
Wow, I haven't even seen the page, but wow, that's a lot more than I would have thought too.
Yeah, I may be wrong. Let me double check it. Yeah, 2281.
Wow.
I do think it is an interesting thing what he's trying to do, at least.
Oh, I'm glad that he's doing it. Honestly, the way he thinks is right. Challenge the meta, do stuff like that. But the thing is that he hasn't experienced the high or top tiers or the competitive area. He's only been in the low and now medium tiers. He doesn't see the top tier players. Top tier players, they run meta builds definitely, but they also are constantly experimenting with, all right, does this work? Okay, no. Does this next one work? Yeah, it works kinda, but only in this specific situation. So that one's a secondary build. Okay, here's this new one. This one is better than the old one in every way. It will replace it as the primary one. You don't really see that at the medium, low, and usually high tier. It's usually the top tier that does that. What he's seeing is people running standardized ones that happen to be primary one in. I want to say they're using hand-me-down ones.
For the top tier, you do see people changing around, but do you see a lot of builds that are more personalized? Like somebody likes medium lasers over medium pulse. Do they tend to run more of those, or AC5 over Gauss, stuff like that? Do you see a lot of that?
Absolutely. It's a top tier player, and I'm not necessarily one of them, but a top tier player. They use what they like to use and what works for them, and they adapt it to what mechs work well, and they build it well. For example, let's take Proton. What mech do you think he runs a lot? Go on, take a guess.
A potato? I don't
No.
know
Okay, I'll narrow it down. I'll narrow it down. You don't know? Okay, never mind. Right.
I'm terrible at remembering names. Like,
all right,
really
Cainen,
bad
you
at
know
it.
Proton, right?
I do recall hearing his name in a match or two, maybe seeing him in a drop. Could you remind me what team he's from?
He's on EMP.
Him.
Alright, I could probably pick someone more easier for you to remember, I guess. Give me 1 sec, let's see a good example. Alright, but anyway, I'll still use him anyway. He's been using catapults since before the December 1st patch where they got buffed.
Wow.
I mean, not like every drop. Not like every drop. I mean, he doesn't use them like every drop, but he did use them before December 1st, at least occasionally. It'll just like Heim was in a quick draw before it got good, and he used it well. Or like you'll see one of the lords, what's his name? I think it was Cyborgs or Wukteg, was in an awesome 8Q before December 1st for like a week. You don't see them running purely meta.
Those are tricky mechs to run. I mean, you can run them very well, but they're tricky. I run catapults myself. I've been running them since closed beta, and they're good, but they're tricky. That's kind of good to see and hear, because I'm not really involved in any of the top tier stuff, so I don't really know any of it. So it's a learning experience for me as well.
Yeah, a lot of those mechs are quite hard to pilot, especially because of all the weaknesses that are associated with them. But you know what? It actually makes me happy to hear that some of these mechs, which aren't kind of thought of in a very high manner, are being used and actually are being made popular by some of these players that do happen to pilot them. That makes me happy from a personal statement, because I always think you should be able to play with your favorites, and if you can unlock the maximum potential just by playing to your style and to your favorites, I think that really counts for a lot more than what anything that you could try and copy paste from someone else.
Yeah.
I got another question. Pre-patch SRMs, were they ever used?
Yeah, occasionally. Depends what mech. The best example I can think of was the Griffin 2N with the ECM and the top-mounted SRMs. They were used in MRBC if you were doing a brawling deck. Get up close with the ECM and just SRM your opponent to death. Another one was, I think, the Wolverine 7K was also decent at it. They were still used, but the thing with SRMs before December 1st, because of their spread and their hitbox issues and their short range and their velocity, they were more of a niche weapon as opposed to an all-rounder. So you didn't see them as common, but they were still used.
Yeah, I love the LRM. Sorry, not the LRM. The SRM buff, that was quite helpful. Do you think that was actually better for the game, a better balancement for it?
Yeah, anytime they make another weapon system good is good for the game. I mean, like, the SRM buff, in addition to the Atlas structure quirks, the Atlas is a powerhouse if it gets up close to you.
Oh, they're scary again.
Like last night, we were running a group and we had 4 of the Atlas with 3 of the S and 1 DDC. And we came around, I want to say, Echo 6 on HPG. The entire enemy team pushed Echo 6, and our 4 Atlases we halted them and then actually pushed them out of that area and then just rolled them.
Oh my god. That is fantastic.
Yeah, I'm happy SRMs are doing good.
The Atlas is an Atlas again. It's wonderful.
Yeah, the poor Atlas did not have much going for it beforehand. Now you actually see them everywhere in the drops. That's good.
Oh, the Atlas! It's awesome now. I mean, if you see an Atlas within 300 meters of you, you got to get away from it. You're not killing it in time.
Run away. Now, post-patch, I'm assuming that with a lot of these new changes, the meta is going to change significantly in the coming month or two. Somewhere in that area, you guys are going to tweak everything and try these new builds with the SRMs and whatnot that are out and reworked.
In my opinion, the meta is already at the top tier changed. And I mean, Heim, for example, Heim and them, they go and they look at, okay, these are the changes that are coming. Okay, let's look at the quirks. Okay, these weapon changes, these quirks, these mechs. All right, this should work. And then literally within the first week or two, there's a new meta that gets established. It takes, I mean, in a month, there might be some future changes, but honestly, I feel like most of it is already fleshed out. You just haven't seen it trickle down yet because it's not established for everyone else.
Okay. It's a little faster than I would have guessed, but cool.
Well, I mean, when you have access to the private test server or a public test server, whatever it's called, and the patch notes. I mean, if you understand the game and its mechanics and how it works, I mean, it's not hard to look at it and be like, okay, this plus this equals good, or this plus this is okay, or suboptimal. It's not as hard as you would think, and then it's just a matter of testing it.
That certainly seems almost eerily reflective of what I was hearing from stuff from like Dota 2 and League of Legends, in terms of how people figure out the game in that manner and how the meta gets established there. It's some eerie similarities.
Well, I mean, me and my unit, me and Forge 88 like to we do a lot of 1v1s and like to come up with interesting builds. It took us like 2 or 3 days really to adapt our mechs to the new meta. There are some outliers that need some work, like we're still messing with our dyers to try and get the best loadout for them, but it's not that hard to figure out, okay, well, it doesn't work as good, this does, we're going to go with this.
Do you still plan on using the twin Gauss 2 large pulse?
Oh yeah, I still use the twin Gauss on my dyer. The only major change has been adding a jump jet or a couple of jump jets to get a little bit more agility, because with the skill tree nerfs, the dyer's agility is noticeably affected. It's a fat lord. you need that jump jet to get it to spread damage well. So that's really all that we've done so far. I mean, we've experimented with maybe ultras instead of Gauss, but ultimately on the dyer, the dyer is really about the alpha. I mean, if you can dish out a massive alpha, I mean, at extra 2 seconds on the Gauss, you can just pull back. And if you can't pull back, you have enough backup. You have enough tonnage to get a good amount of backup weapons to cover the Gauss rifles until it recharges up. It's not as effective as it used to be, but it still works. And in my opinion, it encourages even larger alphas on the direwolves. Like before, I was running dual Gauss, dual large pulse, and then the triple medium. But with the Gauss nerf, I've added I've had one build where I added a couple more mediums, or another one where I swapped out a Gauss for an additional LPL and then some additional mediums. My alpha went from 71 to 83, something like that. So it's just minor changes, really.
Still though, it does affect the way you did build your mech from beforehand and how you kind of build it now, and it still does make a significant, change, at least in the team-based setting, because so many of these mechs are stacking on as force multipliers, if I'm getting that correct.
I'm sorry, you broke up halfway through it. I think my internet is messed up right now.
It's alright. I was just commenting that even though it seems like such a minor change, on a team level, where you have all these minor changes taking place, it becomes a bit of a major change, because everything acts as a force multiplier.
In certain situations, yeah. But for example, let's take the Gauss nerf. I mean, on the dyer, it doesn't affect it. If you're bringing dyers, I mean, it's only a minor thing. That on other mechs, yeah, you're gonna have to mix it up, but you can just always go back to the laser vomit. So you're still doing the same thing you did before. You just requires a little bit more face time or whatever. Overall, it's not as big of a change as you think it would be. They did make, in my opinion, enough changes to really take up the entire meta. All it really did was it brought a couple weapons down a little bit and raised some other weapons up, like the LRMs, to a similar level. It just means that we have some extra strategies available to us rather than basically destroying ones that we already had. It just means we tweak our old strategies and add the new ones. It's not hard. It doesn't take long.
So it would it would just give you more options that are applicable to that level, the competitive level. So now instead of having like these 3 or whatever weapons, I don't know how many, I'm just using that as an example. Now you have 5. So you get a couple more things that you can play with while you're playing, and that's probably a good thing for everybody, I'd say.
Oh, it's definitely good. But again, it doesn't mean that all the weapons work well in every situation. Like, the SRMs are good, definitely, but still they're a short range weapon. They're not gonna be as useful as, or overall as useful, I should say, as more longer range weapons like large lasers, dog rifles, stuff like that, because they can dish out damage at all ranges. But it does add some more specialized gameplay to it, which is good.
Yes, that is true. And these SRMs, I mean, you could bring them to bear if you influence the battlefield. Is that correct?
Well, it depends first on terrain, and then that's pretty much it. If the terrain is good for it, then you use it. So if it's a close quarter map, bring in SRMs. If you can get there with cover, then it'll work. It's a viable strategy. If it's like Alpine, it doesn't matter how much you try, it's not going to work.
Oh, Alpine is just...
Is that what you wanted, or was that off a little bit?
No, that's a really good answer for the SRMs.
Yeah, absolutely. No, they are more conditional because they are shorter range. But what I was trying to do is, depending on what team composition I kind of run into with pugs through the group, is that I try and get everyone to a better position. We can bring those guns to our advantage. Sometimes,
yeah, but in competitive play and in organized play, you generally see a team doing one theme, brawling, long range, or jump sniping, or mobile long range, or whatever. You don't see a mixture, so like you're not going to see generally half the team being long range snipers and the other half brawlers, because if you run into either of those builds, fail. So what you see teams generally do is, or at least from my experience, I've only done one season, so I could be wrong, but from the way I see it is, you look at what map you have. All right, these builds, this strategy, the one giving us the best chance of success, and the enemy team is known for doing this on this terrain, but they also do these other strategies on these other ones. So how can we minimize the chance of losing? So I mean, you're not going to bring a team with multiple SRMs generally with the direct fire, because you're just setting yourself up for two situations where you can lose and one situation where you could win. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense to me. How about you, Gothic?
Yeah. I was just thinking on the whole, when you said you have half the team long range and half the team brawlers. Would you say that the brawlers, if you go up against a brawling team, are just going to get overwhelmed, and the snipers wouldn't be able to reinforce them enough from distance? I
mean, it can work, but if the enemy team, it definitely can work. Mixed decks sometimes win. It's just, again, to me, it's a numbers game. You're bringing a 50-50 drop deck on a map that is clearly long range or is clearly brawl. I mean, you're gonna lose. And if it's another map where they could go either one, you could win, because your long range mechs could theoretically deal enough damage on a brawl deck so that when they get close, you could out brawl them. But at that point, you're relying pretty much purely on your individual skill and your team cohesion, as opposed to having an advantage inherently over the other team.
Okay.
You get that?
Okay.
Is that? I mean, if I'm off base here.
Yeah, that's pretty clear. And now that you said that, I'm assuming you have prior knowledge to what map you're going to be going into.
What, on this? Yeah. For example, like I'm mainly talking about my experience from MRBC and watching it. You know what map you're going in, and you look at it. All right, these drop decks again are the most effective on here. It's good against this, and this. And okay, what can beat it? All right, there's only one or two that maybe could, if that. And then you pick a good position on the map. You're just minimizing your chance of loss. Really, you're keying it to what map you're on.
Okay, that makes perfect sense then.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense to me as well. So basically, this is in that league. What if you didn't know what map you were going to drop on?
Well,
that's what I was thinking when I was asking.
I haven't really seen something like that yet, but if I had to guess, I would say you'd bring a drop deck that is versatile. Honestly, I'd bring lasers. Lasers and Gauss, medium, large lasers and Gauss rifles, because then I can trade at range, and I can beat you up at medium range. And so then, you don't know your map, you're pretty much relying on really luck on what your opponent brings, and also your skill. So you want to bring something that you can use in the most number of situations, and you don't have to worry about heat, and that you're able to focus fire and adapt to what's happening. So in that situation, medium long range decks are the best one to go with, because if you come up, if it's Alpine, you have the ability to poke at long range. If it's let's say River City, you can either go into an area where you can poke from long range, or if they're closing on you, you can whittle them down as they get closer. And then when they do get close enough to you, you still have a fairly significant amount of firepower, because you're not pure snipers. You do have a larger alpha.
Okay.
So in that case, you're going versatile. It's all about, this deck is useful in these numbers of situations. There's only like one or two where it isn't. If that happens, this is what we'll do to try and minimize that.
Okay, I understand that. So, coming from that question, what do you think would help expand the meta in terms of options? Like, I assume players do want to see more viable things emerge and being brought to the table, because I'm pretty sure another reason that this LRM event is going on, because people actually want to do something different and fun. So do you think that having more viable weapons on the table would definitely be a good thing for the meta?
Yeah, in my opinion, more weapons that are, not only viable but are semi-optimal. I mean, not every weapon could be optimal. There's always one or two that is superior. But if you could get them as close as you can to that weapon, then it'd be nice, because then you can see a larger variety of mechs and builds. It's just right now there are, weapon systems that are clearly better because of they have more range or more pinpoint damage or whatever.
Understand that. What would you do?
I'd like to see someone actually be able to use machine guns.
They're really entertaining.
I mean, you guys played Mech Assault, right?
No.
Oh.
I did.
Never mind,
briefly. I played Mech Assault very briefly, and I've played some of the old Mechwarrior games.
Alright, well, on the second Mech Assault game, I'm only bringing this up because I started out on Mech Assault, is the Blood Asp actually had 4 machine guns on it, which in this game would be pathetic. But in that game, machine guns, if you had 4 of them and you got up close to someone, they could actually tear you apart. So, I'd like to see certain weapons, flamers and stuff. It's just right now you can't really run them because they're useless.
Do you remember the flamers from Mechwarrior 3?
Where you could overheat somebody and make them blow themselves up.
Oh my god. I did that all the time.
Now, I do run machine guns and flamers and small lasers. Small lasers are actually one of my favorite weapons in the game as a secondary weapon. But the machine guns and flamers are pure for my own entertainment. They're not effective at all.
Oh yeah, they're troll.
They're fun though, like shutting somebody down with the flamers and just looking at them sitting there. It's just entertaining to me. And then you get shot by all their teammates, but it's fun.
Yeah, it's fun. That's for sure. Yeah, what would you do to make the game have more viable weapons? How to, diversify but equalize the weapons, so that they can all be used. And I know they won't all be as equally optimal, but getting them as close as possible. What would you do to change these weapons?
McGraw would probably be the best person to ask for this, since he understands the game better than the developers.
Oh my god, McGraw! I've seen his post. I love that post. I can understand probably why Paul didn't want to implement it for the upcoming Steam release, because already with all the changes that they're trying to make, plus all the background prep work that they had to do, they would have had so much on their plate, and they're a small studio. I know they've got this big franchise on their plate, but they wouldn't have been able to do that. I really hope, Paul, he's the one in charge of that, stuff really kind of takes the time to look at it, because honestly, it's very sad to just see some of these weapons that, they have their place in the Battletech universe, and over here it's like they're completely useless.
Well, I mean, what I would do is, let's start off with the smaller ballistics, the AC2, the LV2, the Ultra, all the minor ACs, the 2s, the 5s. I would, I don't know, I'd probably start off with drastically lowering their heat, because, I mean, why take them if you have to run multiples of them and then your mech starts heating up? I mean, the only really situation I could see them, I mean, AC5s and Ultra 5s are obviously pretty good, but the way I'd get them better is reducing the heat on them. I'd probably get rid of Ghost Heat entirely for them, the small ones, and then increase their velocity, and then for the AC2, increase the firing rate, because, I mean, the way the AC2 is right now is you have to face tank your opponent, and your damage is minimal. So I would give it so that the AC2 has not an insane firing rate, but a pretty good one, paired with very high velocity and minimal heat output. Basically, I would use it sort of like a mini Gauss rifle that rapid fires. Let's see what else. Machine guns. Machine guns, I'd get rid of the cone of fire. I would increase the damage output, because you can just forget them as a crit weapon. The best crit weapon in this game is the Gauss rifle and the PPC, because when they hit, they instantly deal their full crit damage. Right, that's like a Gauss rifle. It hits an exposed component. It deals 15 crit damage. I mean, that can pretty much take out whatever it wants right there with one hit. Otherwise, the machine gun, you got to get close, and it just takes a while. Yeah, I mean, I would make it so that the machine gun, I'd get away from the crit aspect to make it so that it just whittles your armor down. Not like as it does now, where it just pings like the paint off. I'd actually make it so that its DPS is fairly dangerous considering how small it is. See what else. LRMs, I would give them drastically increased velocity, and make it so that they are fire and forget. Basically, once you get lock, you fire the weapons, the missiles, they're going to hit them. You don't have to maintain the lock on them. And then probably give them a little damage buff, because, I mean, they're not going to be concentrated. Might as well give them,
like 1.
I don't know, 1.3 to start off with, and then go from there. You don't want to make it too heavy. Let's see what else. SRM2s, I would make it, essentially, the way I would do it is similar to what the AC2 and the AC5. I would basically make it so that's a heat neutral weapon that has a fair amount of DPS, considering how small it is. Make it so that its missiles are pretty much guaranteed to hit the same component every time you fire it. And then increase the firing rate, because otherwise, I mean, you might as well just take a larger one. That's what else? Flamers. Flamers, I think they're exponential heat right now, so one flamer can overheat you if you keep going with it, right? Yeah, I'd say so that it does like a specific amount of damage, or not damage, but heat, and make it so that it's able to deal, make it essentially like a heated version of the machine gun, so that it can deal damage and affect the armor, can add some heat to the enemy mech, not a whole lot, but still some, and then the fact that it just gives you a small heat increase. Yeah, that's what I would do with it.
Yeah, the exponential heat is just kind of dumb. Like, yeah, I don't know why they put that in there. On top of already the ghost heat that they have to deal with. I don't even like that system very much. I have my own ideas about the way the heat should be done in the game. But yeah, the fact that they have like a ghost heat capacity of like 3, like they're the most underutilized weapon in the game, and you're going to do that to them? Are you serious? I mean, already there's a small glitch where actually using more than 2 flamers on an opponent will actually not increase their heat more than if you had 1 flamer. It actually just overheats you more. That's a serious problem.
Yeah.
And you can't kill them with... If you overheat them, you cannot overheat them above 90%. So, to get them to shut down, you have to heat them up and then have them fire on you.
Well, that's fine, because you keep them hot, though. But, yeah, the way I would use the machine gun and the flamer is to make up for their extremely short range, and the fact you have to face tank that they have, a pretty good DPS considering, their size and their stature. Let's see, what other stuff? Oh, they're LBX. That's a simple fix. People on the forums have stated it again and again. You just increase the per pellet damage. Get away from the whole it being a crit weapon, because it's the way they have their crit system. It's not going to do it. But just increase its damage. I think they said 1.5, 1.4 per pellet. Then let's go PPCs. I would decrease the heat of the normal PPC from 10 to 8. And then the extended range IS-1 down from 15 heat to probably 11 or 12. And then increase all the PPC's velocity, so that's basically an energy version of the Gauss rifle.
Yeah, that sounds pretty fair.
That would be awesome. I would really like to see that.
And then probably give it a charge mechanic also, so then it's not completely abused. So then, you can charge, for example, for the IS, you can charge 3 of them at a time and fire them. And then for clan, you can charge 2 at a time and fire them. And then I'd probably give the clan a little bit more... right now, it deals 10 damage and then 2.5 to adjacent components. I'd probably increase the primary damage to 13 and have it deal 1 damage on either side. So, something like that, minor changes to it. So then they're all dealing, without Ghost Heat, 30 damage that you can dish out for charge up, I want to say, because, 3 times 10, 30, 2 times 15.
Yeah, that'd be really, really cool.
I mean, you could even tie in the charge up of the PPCs with the Gauss, so then you don't have mechs running 2 PPC dual Gauss and charging them all, firing them all at one time and getting that pinpoint. You could make it so that if you charge them all, that it increases the charge time by a little bit, or
or you could have the charge timers be different for each weapon system. That would cause it to be rather hard.
If it's different, though,
to
then
time it right.
No, not really, because you just charge the one that has a little bit more charge time first, and then you start charging the other one, and then you just charge them at the same time, or about the same time. I would probably just increase it so that your mech has a certain available power per second or something like that, and then if you have 2 of them charging at the same time, then there's no penalty for it. If you're charging 3 at the same time, if it's PPCs, there's no penalty. But if you're doing a Gauss rifle with, for example, 3 IS PPCs, do that, an additional 33 to 50% charge up increase, or maybe 25%, depends. You have to play with it, but something like that's neat. Because if you increase the charge up on one of them, you just charge that one first. That's all.
It would be more of a timing game at that point that people would just get right.
I mean,
yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, I would love it if PPCs were like that, personally, because, you can't fit a Gauss rifle on small mechs. I'd like to have something similar. I don't care if it runs hot. I mean, I like to be able to do something similar with it.
Yeah, I would definitely like to see that come out as well, even from a player on my level. I think I can appreciate a lot of the changes you want to make, and I think it would make for some really awesome... What's the word? I'm going to get another brain fart again.
I don't know the word you're looking for.
Variety. Yeah, because then you'd have something that could go up against the laser vomit. Because PPCs are heavier and hotter than lasers, so I feel like the best way to balance them to it would be to just make so that they at least have a high velocity and they don't run too hot. Because for me, the Ghost Heat is too heavy on PPC.
Oh, it's really bad. If you overfire the PPCs, you're gonna really pay for it.
Yeah, I've blown myself up with PPC builds.
Dire Star?
Thunderbolt 5SS with 4 PPCs on it.
Oh yeah, you run 2 clan PPCs, it's a hot mech.
It's you get 1 alpha and then you explode with it. But the range on it is insane on the 5SS. At least pre-patch.
And then the last change I would do is the clan ER large laser. I would reduce the damage to 10 from 11, and then decrease its not charge time, but burn time.
Duration of the laser.
Yeah, so then it's basically only a little bit more than the IS one. And then for the IS lasers, the IS ER large laser is pretty much fine. I'd probably give it in the standard one maybe 1 point more damage or something. You don't want to break it, but no. You want it to be a little bit more similar.
Now that would also, I think, the ones that you've said would help even out CW and Pug play also. So I think that'd be helpful, not just for meta, for everybody.
Yeah, that's the idea. You want the game to be, fun for everyone. I personally enjoy it when a game has a lot of options.
Yeah.
It's just right now there's only so many options you can do because not every weapon system is as good as the top ones. They're not going to be. They're not going to be even if you edit them and bring them up. But it's just the gap is larger than it. In my opinion, it should be.
That's definitely true. Speaking of gaps, here's my question, because now I've come to learn of groups like the Church of Skill that try and help out these new players. And what would you think, or do you think that having a closer gap between, I guess you could call them the casuals, or the people not involved in comp play, and the people in comp play, what do you think would need to happen? Or do you think it's a good thing that should happen, or not a good thing that should happen?
Well, I guess depending on how it would be done, it could be a good thing. It's two different mentalities. So one the comp player, they in the tryhards, they want to win, whereas the casuals, I'm not saying they don't want to win, but they're there to play the game. So the way I would go about it is, personally, I'd like to see more people doing competitive play, and then just have a lot more divisions you could have. At the top divisions are, the ultra competitive, and then at the bottom you have more casual leagues, but they're still doing competitive stuff. So then, if they want to move up and they want to see, they want to be more competitive and try hard, I guess you could. Oh, then they have the option to do it, and they can go and learn that, because really competitive play is where you're going to learn a lot of this stuff. If you had a casual division, they'll use whatever builds they want, whatever ones are fun, and then as they go up, those builds will get essentially diluted out because the caliber of their opponents will increase, and they'll lose, or they won't, and they'll trickle back down to where they really belong based upon how much effort they put into it. That's how I would do it. Put out more incentives to get people into leagues and stuff like that, and cater the league so that an ultra competitive player can play in it and have fun against other ultra competitive players, and then that casual players can play against other casual players, and they don't have to go up against the top tier, but they can still they can basically work their way up to what level of competitiveness that they want. Does that work?
That works well, actually. Honestly, the way I kind of thought about it, I thought back to my hockey league days. I was never in the top. I was with my bottom team, but I enjoyed playing the game that I played with them, and yeah, we would go out and have fun. We would also try and go out and win. So I kind of relate to what you were saying there, and honestly, I think that would be a great way just to start kind of bridging that gap a bit. Because now you'll start seeing players who get exposure to this, and they can feel like they're a part of the game, but they're also having fun as well. That's the point as I was saying yesterday in the Vintage interview, the point of the game is to have fun. It's not to play it so much that it becomes like boring, stagnant, and that you hate it. I mean, this is not what we come and play video games for. We come and play to have fun, if I'm correct.
Yeah, you are. I mean, everyone, even the ultra competitive players, they play the game for fun. It's just their definition of fun is winning, getting recognition, and defeating opponents. Whereas, as you go down, it's more just stompy robots shooting people. Which is okay. I mean, I like stompy robots shooting people, and I like winning. So, whatever people like, so long as the system is there to, work with them.
Accommodate it, to accommodate their desire.
Yeah, I mean, I wish PGI had, an official, league, and then they had, many, 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 many different divisions for it. So then, you could go grab... So at the lowest tier, you could go grab just some random people and just, mess around with it, give yourself a stupid team name, and just have fun with it for a month or, I wish that events were more like that as opposed to go out there and deal this much damage in a game or get a kill or win or get this match score. I wish it was more I wish it was more community, based instead of, individual.
Yeah, that would be really cool to see. I hope they follow up on it. I know they've been paying a bit of attention, and they tried out in their little MRBC game, which I did not catch, by the way. I have to go look that up. But you know what? You have a great idea, Silken, and I really think that PGI, or at least a greater part of the community, follows up on this and can make it happen. Because honestly, I'd be on board to help out with something like that. I do want to say,
I do want to say that doing the interviews with both you and Envisage, both of you have valid points on both sides, which are, I'd kind of like to see parts of each one of your stuff come to fruition for the entire game. It'd be, I think it would make the whole game better all around.
Well, yeah, I mean, it would still have to be tested and tweaked and edited. It would be different, but yeah, I mean, I feel like it would work. I do spend a lot of time thinking about this stuff because, I mean, what else do I do?
We go to work.
Yeah.
We come home, we do chores.
Work, sleep, play Mechwarrior.
And then as for Envisage, I mean, he's obviously a very smart guy. I enjoyed talking to him on TS a couple of times and chatting on Facebook. I mean, really, to me, this event is just about trying to shake him out of that mentality that he has, or not necessarily mentality, but that delusional thing that, all right, the meta is stale. You just have to adapt to these weapon systems. I feel like once he gets out of that, then he'll be able to, advance more quickly.
Yeah, because he's come far in the few weeks he's played. Certainly made quite a stir on the forums, but...
Well, yeah, he does.
But he's not a dumb person by any means, and he can certainly see some of the mechanics in the game.
Yeah, he's very insightful about it. There are some things he doesn't know, which is where this whole thing really started, was telling you, okay, you're wrong here, here, and here. You got to get some more experience before you go back out there, and you start telling new players to do this stuff. But, yeah, I mean, I could definitely see him a serious player here. Not necessarily very soon, but down the road.
I'll think.
Give him about 4 months to 6 months, and he'll be there probably.
Yeah, he certainly picked up quite quickly. I think he would probably get there in about that amount of time. I honestly, as I said with Gothic, I don't want to see any sort of, what's the word, loser from this fight, because honestly, you're both great people. You both have these awesome points, and honestly,
I don't think anybody can lose or win. I mean, somebody's going to lose and win the game, but this is more.
Always a loser.
This seems more like an experiment than a serious competitive money on the line, kind of thing. It's an experiment to see if you can break the meta and where it can go from there.
Well, it's about theories. The meta, I mean, to be a new player after 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and to think that the top tier players don't have versatility in the meta. I mean, they change the meta every couple weeks. There's always a new build or whatever that comes out. You know, this is about theories. This isn't about breaking the meta or anything. The meta is not going to get broken. It is proven to be effective. Even if the LRMs win, it's not going to be because of the LRMs. It's going to be because of the people he has on his roster. Because let's go over them here. 1 second. Bring it up. All right. He has Seiko, Absurdity, Mechwarrior, Solitude, Bowser, Psychoholic, Maverick, Impulse, Airlock, Lucy Lou, Magician, and then he has the rest of them. Those first 11 I named right there can easily carry this if they have a decent amount of direct fire. If he wins, it's going to be because they focused fire to direct fire. The LRMs are not going to play much of a factor in this at all. So it's not really going to prove that the meta is wrong or to change it. This is just theories, really. That's what it's about. It's about a battle, to me, of mentalities, and basically correcting him and getting him out of the one he's in right now, so he can get onto the advanced stage of the game. Because as I said earlier, I went through what he is doing right now, the way he's thinking, the builds, the strategies, and it's very good that he's doing this because it shows he has creativity and adaptability, which will help him later. But it still needs to be corrected because otherwise he can get himself in this state where he'll essentially get himself into a corner, and he's going to lose that creativity because he's going to think, okay, well, this works, when in reality it doesn't. He'll end up sticking to it.
All right, that's interesting. I don't really know what to say to that.
Yeah, I mean, it's not about proving LRMs are able to compete with the meta, because they're not. We've tested it many times before. They don't work. I mean, they work, but they're not optimal.
They're situational.
It's all about efficiency and optimization, min-maxing, as opposed to bringing something that works even well in a specific situation, but there are many ways to mitigate it or neutralize it or get around it. So LRMs are not going to win this for him. If he wins, it's because his team is very good at what they do, not necessarily because the weapon system.
Yeah, I see the list over here. I recognize a lot of those names.
Oh yeah. I mean those first 11 guys right there. I mean, you put them on pretty much any team you want. If they work together well, they'll be able to threaten any team. Really, I mean, there are some exceptions. I mean, a well-organized group of SJR VMP could beat that group. I know that there are some SJR and EMP players on that list, but
the Magician.
Still, yeah. I mean, they're still very good.
Absolutely.
I mean, the interesting thing for me is going to be watching how Envisage plays during this, really, compared to these other players, because they're completely different than the guys that he plays with. Like, I know he said that he's played with some top tier players, but even if he has, this is organized play with all top tier players and some other high tier ones. It's completely different than doing a public queue match, or even being in a group queue match at that level, because I mean each of these guys, I put it to my teammates earlier, each of the players he has pretty much is, in my opinion, worth an entire team down in like tier 4. I mean,
No, you're right.
Now, could they win every time? No, I'm not saying that they'd beat a whole 12-man of tier 4 players every time, but I mean, they could definitely take down a couple of them. Yeah, I give you a good example here right now. I fought a couple months ago in my old team, 3 team members, and all of them are tier 3. I think one of them was tier 2, And let me bring it up. I got the result here. I was in my direwolf and I fought my buddies in a warhawk and 2 executioners, one at a time. See if I can find it here. This is it. Yeah, this is it.
Let's take a look at that. Wow.
Yeah, so I mean,
did they put you in a trial of position?
oh no, I like to do private lobbies. It's my favorite thing, and I invite people in. I used to invite my teammates in all the time, and we would do these things, and they wanted to beat me, so they brought a warhawk and 2 executioners, and I told them, okay, come one at a time, and they did, and I stripped the executioners and butchered the warhawk, and then just damage farmed them. But yeah, I mean, I hope this basically proves it, that a good player is able to, mess up a whole team. I mean, they might not necessarily win, but a player like Selith or Seiko, in my opinion, is an equal match with a team of tier 4, tier 5 players, because they position so well. Their accuracy is, they're aggressive, they can spread damage quickly.
Yeah, they're very efficient from what I've seen.
I mean, me and Seiko alone in one match, it was the 2 of us, and we took down 7 mechs by ourselves at the end of the match, because there was just 2 of us left. I mean, and those are tier 2 and tier 1 players. So I think one of us could. I'll back down a little bit. I think we'd probably lose against 12, but I'd say 8 we could do probably. A tier 4, tier 5. I mean, you've played CW during the events, right? Where you get all the noobs and trials.
I've played. It is very painful.
I mean,
you have the noobs and the trials on your team, and then the next thing you know, you have like a 6-man of SJR on the other team, and it's like G-Man and the Magician and Gut, and I'm like, for fuck's sake, why? Why me? At some point during the match, I'm just typing them, are you having fun farming us? And Magician replies, no.
It's not fun.
No.
It's not fun. It's to me, when I'm in that situation and the other team is a bunch of lower tier players and they're in trial mechs, I feel bad, honestly, killing them, because a lot of the time they just stare at you and they don't really move and they just orbit. They go down in 2 alphas because they're not torso twisting, and it's bad.
They've been really introduced to the game.
I mean, who knows? Maybe I could prove this statement. I could probably get Seiko or Proton and have them see if they could go up against 10, 8, 10, or 12 tier 4, tier 5 players. I could see that maybe in the future. I doubt it, but
it would be an interesting event.
Yeah, it wouldn't be, it'd just be like a one-off, like little there it goes. But yeah.
Boss fight week.
Back to the actual 12v12 thing. That these players are at a completely different level than what he's playing at, and if they come serious to win, which I don't think they necessarily. I mean, it's in their nature to win. I don't know if they're going to go exactly all out. They might. If they do, they're 2-3 times as deadly as they are in normal games that you encounter them in. I just want to watch to see if he keeps up, really.
I can only imagine.
I don't think he will, but I think he'll do okay. Not terrible, but decent considering he's only been playing for a couple weeks.
Yeah. That's
Cainen, we're quite a bit over an hour now. Just wanted to give you a heads up on that.
Yes. So I think that covered all the questions that we pretty much want to talk over, and that certainly raised a lot of discussion, and a lot of good points did come up. So I did want to thank you for that. Now, there's a fun question that I have for you, and it comes from the interview.
Envisages. I know it. Go ahead.
Why can you not see
what he sees?
What the envisage sees?
No, I see what he sees. I had the same thing when I started out, but the thing is, you gotta get that wake up call, and you gotta look past it, and you gotta move on, because you always want to be aiming for what's optimal, what's the most efficient, what gives you the best chance of winning. And I mean, yeah, you could make LRMs work, but it's far more difficult and more labor intensive, and the returns are less effective.
Yeah.
The way I view it is like playing an RTS game, sort of. It's all about resource management, getting as many resources as you can, spending it as effectively as you can, get the most optimal and effective in this sense, like mech or strategy, as opposed to an army and stuff like that. I mean, you're just hamstringing yourself if you go and you take something that's not as efficient.
Yeah, that's understandable, and I can relate. I've changed up my, well, even on a lower tier, I've changed up my CW drop deck just so I can help support my team better. So on some maps I just switched out my Hunchback 4J, even though I was doing decently in it, just so I can get that bit of extra from my Thunderbolts instead. I mean, I was running a Stalker, 2 Thunderbolts, and a Raven, and I was trying to pump that much out of it and trying to help the team out a little more in that. So yeah, I could completely see where you're coming from in terms of the optimal and efficiency sort of things. It's something as a player that I experienced over time.
Yeah, like I'm not trying to like squash him or beat him down, because the way he thinks is very good. I don't want to mess that up. It's just that what he's thinking currently needs to get is all. That's it, really.
All right. Well, that's good. All right. I guess we're all done with the questions. Any closing statements from anyone?
Not really. Just I hope we have a good turnout on the event and everything goes good and people actually show up. Like the players and the streamers and all that.
Yeah,
and then lastly, that Soulstrom feels better, so you can get that freaking video up after 2 months. I know he's working. I know he's working on it tonight. I know he is.
I'm sorry.
I just no. Don't apologize. He's been busy and he's been sick, so I completely understand it. I just hope he gets better. Honestly, the video, if it comes up in like a month or two, that's okay. I only brought it. That's just a joke, or not a joke. It's like a little. It's just a little prod. That's it.
Get it up.
It's like a half joke. You want it up, but you're not. You don't actually care.
Well, it's not like the primary thing. The primary thing is that he feels better and stuff like that. Yeah.
Now I just want to say, remember, kids. M is for potato.
That's the motto. All right. That was a good closing statement. Thank you so much, Gothic. Thank you so much, Silken, for this interview. I'm privileged to know a great person like you, and I honestly think that you're a great benefit to this community in any shape or form.
Well, I mean, I'm okay, but, I like to think that most people playing the game have something beneficial. I mean, I'm just a person. You don't have to feel privileged to be, anything dealing with me. I mean, there are other people who are just like this.
Oh, I've never gotten myself so involved with the video game community before, because I don't know if I was just staring at the surface of toxicity or negativity coming from other games. Like, I never really got into the community of League of Legends or the community of Dota 2. It was just too alien to me. And then I come here to this game. At first, it was a little odd. Like, I had to kind of adjust with everyone and see how the behavior was. But honestly, once I look a bit past the toxicity on the forums coming from certain people, I see a lot of passionate people who absolutely love this universe and that want to see this thing go further, because they love mechs. They love big stompy robots blowing the shit out of each other. It's awesome. And I
know what you mean.
And it's
I love
great.
this. I love being able to do this because I've loved BattleTech since. I mean, I started out on Mech Assault when I was like 6 or 7, and I've loved it since then. Just because the big mechs and blowing people up, and then I was never able to really share it with anyone because no one around me really had the same interest. And then I used to play Mechwarrior 4 when I was 8 or something like that, and I played it for many years, and I'd play it all day, just sitting in the multiplayer thing, going up against bots because my internet wasn't good enough for me to play online. So,
do you remember the Shadow Cats with 13 small pulse and legging everything in that game?
Mechwarrior
I do.
3.
I don't remember that because I played Mech Assault and Mechwarrior 4. I didn't play the earlier ones, and I wasn't able to play online against people. It was all bots. This is the first game I've actually been able to play online consistently, just because I was able to improve my internet. But yeah, I like being able to come here to this community, even though some people really tick me off. Just like everyone, there's always that one person that ticks you off.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Your Mechwarrior?
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, the fact that I still like everyone here, because everyone here they love mechs just like I do, and they love the factions, and I'm able to go and debate. Oh well, Clan Smoke Jaguar for the win and all that. Screw you, IS, and all that. I'm able to talk to people about that, whereas outside of this game, really, I haven't been able to do that. So I wouldn't say love the community or the people individually, but I do really care for them generally. Some people I could care less, but but generally I do like this community and how much effort they put into stuff and how passionate they are, like you said, about the lore and the mechs and not necessarily the lore of the mechs. Even some of them are just passionate about the Mechwarrior series or these games. Even that, to me, that's fine.
Yeah,
I think a lot of the older players on here have been playing or reading or something BattleTech since they were kids. I think a large majority of the player base is at that right now with the Steam release. It'll be kind of cool to bring a new generation of that in.
Yeah, hopefully. I partially watched a stream yesterday with Baron Von Games, and they looked like they really enjoyed it. I mean, I was like biting my lip the whole time though, because like how new they are, and they don't understand why the mechs are the way they are and why the factions are this or that. But I want them to learn it. Like I started out with Mech Assault, which has nothing, no factions, nothing. It's just here's Wolster guns, here's where to Blade, go kill them. But everyone needs a starting point that appeals to them, and if that's fine, that's fine for them.
Yeah, and I completely agree with you on that. And I think we as the community, it's up to us to kind of bring in this new generation and kind of introduce them with a warm welcome to this series and how the game plays and stuff like that, and they'll pick up on it and hopefully have a much more enriched community and an ever increasingly fun game.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. Alright, well I think we've been on for a while. We might. Yeah, you don't want the video and all that to be too long. But I think this is a good stopping point. We kind of diverged.
We got a little off track, but I think most of what was said was relative to like a point or something. I'm terrible with words and the thinking thing, but
that's all right.
I think it's all good.
We know what you mean.
Yeah, we wanted to convey our message and get that across. I think that we did that excellently. So I guess we'll just wrap this up here. Thank you so much again, Silken. I really do appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. I enjoyed doing it. I like the fact that you guys are able to stream this on Sunday and be a part of it.
I'm glad to be a part of it, and looking forward to it. And speaking of this Sunday, it will be the LRMs versus the Meta, and I hope you will be there. So until next time, viewers, stay classy. That was a horrible outro.
Did you remember how to end it correctly this time?
No.
So is it still going?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stay still. Fuck. I messed it up too.
Wait for it.
Stay still. Fuck. I'm tired of shit.
And Cainen fumbles.
I meant to say
the last score.
Stay Silken, viewers. I fucked it up twice. That's alright.
Stay Silken, viewers.
As long as they don't hold it against me too much, it's alright.
It's all good, man. It's all good. Alright, guys. Thanks for everything. We'll catch you later.